Hello and a very warm welcome to ESY Learning English. I'm Mark.
And I'm Sarah. It is absolutely wonderful to have you joining us today from wherever you are listening in the world. Mark, I have a little scenario for you. Imagine you walk into a coffee shop in London or in New York. You walk up to the barista, stand up very straight, and say, "Greetings to you. I would like to purchase 1 cup of coffee, if you please. What is the monetary cost of this beverage?"
Oh dear, if someone said that to me, I would think they just traveled forward in time from the year 1880, or maybe that they were a robot wearing a human suit. It is grammatically perfect, but nobody actually speaks like that in real life.
Exactly, and that is the exact frustration so many English learners face every single day. You study grammar for years, you memorize thousands of words from vocabulary lists, you pass your exams with flying colors, but when you finally open your mouth to talk to a native speaker, you feel stiff, formal, and unnatural.
You feel like a walking, talking grammar textbook. And that brings us directly to today's topic on ESY Learning English, why your English sounds like a textbook and how to finally sound natural. Today, we are breaking down the psychological and educational reasons why we get trapped in robotic, formal speech. We will be sharing the secrets that native speakers use to sound fluid and effortless, and most importantly, how you can transition from classroom English to the real world.
If you have ever felt nervous about speaking because you sound too formal or too bookish, listen closely until the very end of this episode, because this conversation is going to change the way you practice English forever. And of course, as always, we will be highlighting some incredibly practical English vocabulary along the way. We will review all of these new words in a fun, natural conversation at the very end of the show.
But before we dive into the secrets of natural speech, Sarah, it is time for our signature ESY Learning English quiz question. We're talking about how English is actually spoken in the real world versus how it is taught in books. Linguistic researchers frequently analyze everyday spoken English to see which words are used most often. So my question is, what percentage of everyday casual English conversations is made up of just the top 1,000 most common words in the language? Is it A, around 50%, B, around 75%, C, over 85%?
Wow, that is a truly fascinating question. When we study from textbooks, we're constantly trying to memorize big, complicated, advanced words. But when I think about how my friends and I chat over coffee, we really use very simple words most of the time. I don't think it's 50%. That feels too low. I'm going to guess C, over 85%.
A very confident and logical guess, Sarah. We will find out if your intuition is right or if the real statistics surprise us at the very end of today's program. Let's dive right into the trap of textbook English.
To understand why our spoken English sounds so rigid and artificial, Mark, we first have to look at how English is traditionally taught in schools around the world. Most classrooms focus heavily on prescriptive grammar.
Ah, prescriptive. Let's define our first key vocabulary word right away. Prescriptive is an adjective. In linguistics, prescriptive grammar refers to a strict set of rules that tell you how a language should or must be used, according to traditional grammar books, rather than how people actually use it in daily life.
Spot on. When we learn prescriptive grammar, we're taught rigid rules like never end a sentence with a preposition, or always use whom instead of who in the object position, or never start a sentence with and or but.
Right, but if you listen to real native speakers, whether they're taxi drivers in Manchester, business executives in Sydney, or actors in Hollywood, they break those prescriptive rules constantly. In the real world, English is descriptive.
Our second vocabulary word today is descriptive. Descriptive is an adjective that focuses on observing and describing how native speakers actually speak and write in the real world, without judging whether it is correct or incorrect according to an old rule book.
And when learners try to speak using 100% prescriptive textbook rules, it creates a psychological barrier. We become obsessed with avoiding errors. We suffer from hypercorrection.
Let's break down that word, hypercorrection. Hypercorrection is a noun. It happens when a speaker tries so hard to apply formal grammar rules that they end up making their speech sound completely unnatural, awkward, or even grammatically strange because they are overthinking every single syllable.
Instead of just saying what's on your mind, your brain is acting like a strict school teacher with a red pen, crossing out your words before they even leave your mouth. You pause, you stutter, and when you finally speak, you sound like a news anchor reading a formal broadcast from the 1950s.
That brings us to one of the biggest, most important differences between textbook English and native speech, the physical sound of the words. Textbooks teach us to pronounce words individually, in isolation. You learn I am going to go to the store.
Every single word is pronounced clearly, with equal energy and stress. But real English is a stress-timed language. That means native speakers naturally compress, squeeze, and blend words together to keep a steady rhythm. This is called connected speech.
And a huge part of connected speech is using reductions. Our next vocabulary word is reduction. In phonetics, a reduction is a noun that refers to the shortening or weakening of sounds in spoken words, especially unstressed vowels and syllables.
Give us a few classic examples of reduction, Sarah. How does classroom English compare to street English?
Well, in a classroom or a textbook, you might read, I want to give you a cup of tea. But in natural conversation, those words blend and reduce. Want to becomes wanna, give you becomes gimme or give ya. Cup of becomes cuppa. So a native speaker casually says, I want to give you a cup of tea.
Or take the phrase going to. Textbooks say, what are you going to do tonight? A native speaker reduces that almost instantly to, what you gonna do tonight? Or even shorter, what you gonna do?
When English learners try to speak without any reductions, when they pronounce every single T and D with laser precision, it creates a staccato rhythm.
Let's highlight that word. Staccato is an adjective borrowed from Italian music terminology. When applied to speech, it means sounds or words that are pronounced in a short, sharp, disconnected, and abrupt way, with noticeable pauses between them.
A staccato rhythm sounds robotic because it lacks the smooth, flowing melody of human conversation. To sound natural, you actually have to give yourself permission to be a little bit messy with your pronunciation. You have to let the words flow into each other like water in a river, rather than bricks in a wall.
That is such a beautiful comparison, Sarah. Water in a river versus bricks in a wall. Now let's talk about vocabulary choices. This is where the textbook trap catches almost everyone. In formal education, learners are rewarded for using big, impressive, academic words.
We call this using a formal register. Our next word is register. In sociolinguistics, register is a noun that refers to the level of formality or informality used in a specific social setting or context. You wouldn't wear a tuxedo to the beach, and you shouldn't use academic register at a casual dinner party.
Exactly. Let me give you a classic example. A textbook learner might say, I am experiencing significant fatigue, therefore I shall depart to my residence to obtain slumber.
Wow, that sounds like a 19th century aristocrat. In casual spoken English, a native speaker would simply say, I'm super tired, so I'm gonna head home and get some sleep. Notice the difference in register. Depart becomes head home. Obtain slumber becomes get some sleep.
The real secret to natural spoken English is mastering phrasal verbs. Our next vocabulary term is phrasal verb. A phrasal verb is a phrase consisting of a basic verb combined with an adverb or preposition, like put off, look into, or come up with, that creates a completely new idiomatic meaning.
Why do English learners tend to avoid phrasal verbs, Mark?
Because they're notoriously difficult to memorize from lists. There are thousands of them, and one phrasal verb can have 5 different meanings depending on the context, so learners fall back on single, formal Latin-based verbs because they feel safer and more precise.
But native speakers use phrasal verbs constantly. Instead of saying, we must postpone our meeting, we say, we need to put off our meeting. Instead of saying, I cannot tolerate this noise, we say, I can't put up with this noise. Instead of saying, let us investigate the problem, we say, let's look into the problem.
If you want to instantly sound less like a textbook and more like a natural speaker, start trading your formal Latin-based verbs for common phrasal verbs. It makes your speech sound instantly warmer, friendlier, and more approachable.
Approachable is our next word. It is an adjective that means friendly, easy to talk to, and welcoming. When you use conversational vocabulary instead of textbook jargon, people feel much more comfortable opening up to you.
Now, Sarah, there is one final piece of the puzzle that textbooks almost never teach, yet it is essential for real human communication: the use of discourse markers and conversational fillers.
Ah, yes, our final vocabulary phrase before we get to the quiz answer is discourse marker. A discourse marker is a word or phrase like, well, you know, actually, I mean, or to be honest, that doesn't necessarily change the literal meaning of a sentence, but is used to organize speech, manage the flow of conversation, or soften a statement.
In school, teachers often tell us not to use words like well or like or you know. They call them bad habits or sloppy speech. But in reality, native speakers rely on discourse markers every single minute of the day. They serve a vital social function.
Think about what happens when someone asks you a difficult or unexpected question. If you stay completely silent for 5 seconds while your brain translates and constructs the perfect textbook sentence, it feels awkward. The other person might think you didn't hear them or that you were angry.
But if you start your sentence with a natural discourse marker like, well, you know, that's actually a really good question, you instantly buy your brain 2 or 3 seconds of processing time. It fills the silence naturally, keeps the rhythm of conversation going, and makes you sound completely relaxed and confident.
Exactly. Discourse markers act like the social glue of language. They show hesitation, agreement, empathy, and emotion. They turn dry textbook data into a living, breathing human conversation.
So, to summarize our advice today for all our amazing listeners, stop aiming for robotic, prescriptive perfection. Embrace connected speech and reductions. Swap your formal academic vocabulary for casual phrasal verbs. And don't be afraid to use natural discourse markers to keep your conversations flowing smoothly.
What an incredibly empowering discussion, Sarah. I really hope our listeners feel inspired to drop their grammar armor and start speaking more naturally. Now, speaking of everyday, natural conversation, I am dying to know the answer to our quiz question.
Yes, indeed. Earlier in the show, I asked you, what percentage of everyday casual English conversations is made up of just the top 1,000 most common words in the language? Your options were A, around 50%, B, around 75%, C, over 85%. You guessed C, over 85%. Were you right?
I'm crossing my fingers, Mark. Please tell me my intuition was correct. You can celebrate, Sarah, because you were spot on. The correct answer is C, over 85%. In fact, comprehensive linguistic corpus studies show that just 1,000 core words account for roughly 85 to 89% of all words used in daily informal spoken English.
That is absolute proof right there. That is such liberating news for English learners everywhere. It proves that you do not need to memorize a 5,000-page dictionary or use complicated 10-syllable textbook words to be fluent and expressive. You just need to learn how to use the core, simple vocabulary naturally, fluidly, and confidently.
Absolutely. Fluency is about flexibility, not vocabulary size. Now let's transition into our signature Easy Learning English conversational vocabulary review. We are going to review all the key terms we highlighted today purely through natural dialogue so you can hear how they work in real life. Sarah, where should we start?
Let's start with the difference between grammar rules. We talked about prescriptive grammar. That is an adjective meaning relating to strict rules that tell people how language should be used according to traditional authority, rather than how it's naturally spoken. Many older teachers take a prescriptive approach to grammar and correct every minor error.
But we contrasted that with descriptive grammar. Descriptive is an adjective that observes and classifies how language is actually used by native speakers in the real world without judging it as right or wrong. Modern linguists prefer a descriptive approach because language is constantly evolving and changing.
And when a learner is too worried about prescriptive rules, they suffer from hypercorrection. Hypercorrection is a noun. It refers to applying a grammar or pronunciation rule so strictly and obsessively that you actually make your speech sound unnatural, awkward, or incorrect. His hypercorrection made him speak so slowly that people lost interest in the story.
To fix that, learners need to embrace reductions. A reduction is a noun in phonetics that means the shortening, slurring, or weakening of sounds and syllables in natural, connected speech. Using contractions like wanna and gonna are natural reductions that make you sound more fluent.
If you avoid those reductions, your speech will have a staccato rhythm. Staccato is an adjective borrowed from music, meaning sounds or words that are pronounced in a short, sharp, disconnected, and abrupt manner, with distinct pauses. Because he pronounced every single consonant individually, his speech sounded robotic and staccato.
We also discussed the importance of choosing the right register. Register is a noun referring to the level of formality or informality in language used for a specific social setting or audience. When speaking to your close friends at a party, you should use a casual, informal register.
And the best way to master an informal register is by learning phrasal verbs. A phrasal verb is a noun phrase referring to an idiomatic combination of a basic verb and a preposition or adverb, like take off, look after, or hang out, that creates a completely new meaning. If you want to sound less like a textbook, replace formal words with everyday phrasal verbs.
Doing that will make you sound much more approachable. Approachable is an adjective meaning friendly, welcoming, easy to talk to, and not intimidating. Smiling and using relaxed, everyday vocabulary makes you seem much more approachable to native speakers.
Finally, we talked about the power of the discourse marker. A discourse marker is a noun phrase referring to words or phrases like well, you know, actually, or I mean that help organize speech, manage the flow of conversation, and give you time to think. Using a natural discourse marker like well, actually, gives your brain 2 seconds to formulate your answer without awkward silence.
What a comprehensive and powerful review, Sarah. You used every single word effortlessly in context. And that brings us to the conclusion of today's deep dive episode of Easy Learning English.
We truly hope this conversation gives all of you listening the courage to close your grammar textbooks, step out into the real world, and start enjoying messy, beautiful, natural conversations. Remember, language is a tool for human connection, not a math exam.
If you found today's episode valuable, please make sure to subscribe to the Easy Learning English channel so you never miss our weekly discussions. And we have a homework question for you to answer in the comments below. What is one formal textbook word or phrase that you used to say all the time, and what casual phrase will you replace it with from now on?
I can't wait to read all of your comments and see your progress. Until next week, keep practicing your spoken English, don't be afraid to make mistakes, stay curious, and goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Speak to you very soon.